I'm Jeremy Narby. I'm an anthropologist and an activist for the rights of indigenous Amazonian people, and I've been doing this for close to 30 years. I've also been using ayahuasca on occasion, working with indigenous practitioners. And I hardly ever talk about the role that ayahuasca has played in fueling my activism, though it's not a taboo subject by any means. And in fact, I'm talking about it right now. But I think that the point is to use, if one is going to work with ayahuasca and be an activist for the rights of indigenous Amazonian people, the point is to be the proof of one's own hypothesis, as it were. In other words, to use the ayahuasca, but not to talk about it, and to show in one's work extra coherence. In other words, if ayahuasca is so good, then let it show in the work that one does, and let that work be impeccable and deep and pertinent. Ayahuasca has clearly impacted on me as an anthropologist and as an activist. The thing that blew me away from the start is that once you've experienced ayahuasca, you know that these people have a deep knowledge about things that we know nothing about, and that they're not just a bunch of Indians in the rainforest, but they actually have they're like there's a whole university there. And so once you've been touched by this, and you know that not only are these people like us, and that they have rights like us, and that they're kind to their children and all of these things, but they actually have a system of knowledge that is comparable to ours, but doesn't really map so easily with it, then it has that encouraged me to give my life to trying to be solidary with these people and to help them defend their territories, defend their cultures, and simply survive. But then, so having decided to do that, and then along the path, as an activist, one runs into obstacles, difficulties. I mean, it's not easy trying to bring about change in the world, especially when you're dealing with petroleum companies and corrupt governments and so on and so forth. So then at every turn of the road, there are occasions where you have to figure out your strategy, your attitude, and how to do it. And ayahuasca can also be useful for that, at least for me. I wouldn't want to encourage everybody to go. It's not an instant medicine that is necessarily going to turn everybody into an eco-activist by any means. In fact, it's an amplifier, and it tends to amplify what's already there. But if you want to work on strategy and diplomacy and precise problems, ayahuasca can be very useful and can give you insight into situations. So that's how I would work with ayahuasca as an activist, without talking about it too much. What I like about Alianza Arkana is that it is an association of people who have come to the Amazon and who've been touched by Amazonian people and their medicine, and who have understood that it's not just a question of getting healing from Amazonian healers, but it's also a question of exchanging and giving back. And the indigenous people in this area have all kinds of needs and difficulties, including petroleum companies that contaminate their environments, including governments that fail to recognize their land rights, and just a whole series of basic difficulties where they need allies and outside assistance, sometimes even funds, to help them move forward and survive, and also get bilingual intercultural education for their children. Otherwise they lose their mother tongue. There's a whole series of areas in which assistance is needed. And Alianza Arkana has demonstrated the will to work with indigenous organizations, and I've known some of these organizations for a long time, and I know that these are the serious actors here, and Alianza Arkana is working with them and has intentions of backing them on questions of land rights, for example. And so channeling the funds that come into the Temple of the Way of Light, and then through that through Alianza Arkana into concrete political projects with Amazonian indigenous organizations. So this is a very interesting innovation, because most of the funding for indigenous projects comes from NGOs, Oxfam, IBIS, Axis. There's a short list of mainly European donors that has been backing the indigenous organizations of the Peruvian Amazon for the last 30 or 40 years. Alianza Arkana is a new kid on the block, and it's a welcome new energy. And so us old activists will be looking on with interest to see the results that they managed to come up with.